I live alone in a quiet suburban area in Aurora, Colorado. That insane incident happened in the early morning hours of January 1st, right after New Year's Eve that year. I didn't go anywhere that night. I turned down invitations from friends, telling them I was tired. The truth was, I had lost interest in parties. I watched TV until around 11:30, turned off the lights, and went to bed. Outside, there was a light layer of snow. Not enough to block the road, just enough to dull everything. The neighborhood was completely quiet. The kind of quiet that settles in after the holidays, when everyone is exhausted and trying to recover. I didn't sleep deeply. Maybe it was the emptiness that always comes after the holidays, or maybe it was the unnatural silence of the house. Around dos Salto M, I woke up because of a very small sound. So small that for a few seconds I thought I was dreaming. It wasn't a knock. It wasn't the doorbell. It was the sound of metal brushing against metal. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling, holding my breath. Then the sound came again, clearer this time. I realized it was the lock turning. My entire body went cold. I didn't turn on the light. I didn't move. I heard the front door open, slowly, without any force, just enough for someone to step inside. Someone had entered my house. I reached for my phone on the nightstand. The screen lit up the darkness and I quickly flipped it face down. My heart was pounding so hard I was afraid it could be heard. From the bedroom, I heard unfamiliar sounds coming from the living room. Something was set down. There was a soft impact. Then silence. No voices. No calling out. I called 911 and whispered that someone was inside my house. I told them I didn't hear anything break. No forced entry, just someone who had walked in. I was alone in my bedroom. While the dispatcher asked questions, I heard movement in the kitchen. A drawer opened, closed, then a faint sound, like a glass bottle touching the countertop. Then, very softly, I heard singing. No clear words, no recognizable melody, just low, broken sounds, as if someone was quietly singing to themselves. The sound made my skin crawl immediately. It wasn't loud, but it felt close, like the distance between us was shrinking. The singing stopped suddenly. Right after that, there was a scream. Not long, not clear enough to tell if it was pain or anger. Just a short, erratic sound, and then nothing. Then I heard footsteps. Not fast, not rushing. A dragging sound against the floor, slow and deliberate. The sound moved into the hallway, closer to the bedroom. I pressed myself into the corner of the room, my back against the wall. I didn't dare breathe loudly. I just stared at the thin door, separating me from whoever was on the other side. The footsteps stopped right in front of the bedroom door. No words, no name, just breathing. Close, heavy, wet. Then the door shook. One, hard. A second one followed. No warning. No explanation. I slid down onto the floor, curled into myself, whispering into the phone that the person was right outside my bedroom door. Then there were no more hits. Only silence. I heard the dragging footsteps move away from the door, slow and uneven, fading into the house. A short while later, I heard the toilet flush. The water kept running. It didn't stop. When the police arrived, they knocked gently and called my name. I only opened the bedroom door after hearing multiple voices. Flashlights swept through the hallway. They found the man asleep on the bathroom floor. The water was still running. That night, I didn't go back to my bedroom. I stayed in the living room until morning. At the time, I thought it was just another loud New Year's Eve party, like so many others in the neighborhood. Music was coming from the house next door, mixed with shouting, laughter, and the sound of something hitting the walls. I checked the clock. It was almost 1 in the morning. It was freezing outside. Snow covered the driveway, and all I wanted was to sleep. I stood in the living room and listened. When the music dipped for a moment, I heard something else. It wasn't clear. It sounded like someone speaking very softly. It didn't sound like laughter, and it didn't sound like an argument either. I told myself it was just the music carrying through the walls. About 10 minutes later, I heard it again. This time, it was more distinct. A weak, shaky voice, almost swallowed by the bass and the loud voices of adults. I couldn't make out any words, only the fear and the sound itself. I stood there for a long time, my hand resting on the light switch, not turning it on or off. I didn't go next door. I didn't call the police. I wasn't sure what I had heard, and I was afraid I was overreacting. I went back to the bedroom and told my wife. She felt uneasy too, but we both said that if something was really wrong, surely someone else on the block would have stepped in. After a while, we decided to go over together, not to complain, but just to check. When we stood outside the house, the music was still playing, but quieter. The living room lights were on. A man opened the door, the smell of alcohol heavy in the air. When we asked if everything was okay, he looked at us like we had insulted him. He said everything was fine, said it was New Year's Eve, and told us to mind our own business. We didn't see anyone else inside. We didn't see a child. We didn't hear anything anymore. We went back home, unsettled, but with nothing concrete to justify doing more. We talked about calling the police, then decided not to. We were afraid of being wrong, afraid of causing unnecessary trouble, afraid of becoming the difficult neighbors right at the start of the new year. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, the street was quiet. Too quiet. There were no cars in front of that house. Around midday, I saw an ambulance pull up. No sirens. A short while later, I saw a young girl being carried out on a stretcher. She was small, wrapped in a blanket, her face turned away. The man was led out afterward, handcuffed, his head down. Neighbors gathered. Someone said the man had left the house during the night. Someone else said the girl had been taken to the hospital early that morning. No one spoke loudly. No one looked directly at each other. That evening, I read a short article in the local news. There weren't many details. It only mentioned a domestic violence incident that happened after New Year's Eve. I realized the weak voice I had heard in the night was hers. I had heard it. I had been close enough. And I had done nothing. Since then, when I hear loud noises at night, I don't think about how annoying they are anymore. I think about the sounds that aren't meant to disturb, but to ask for help. And sometimes, New Year's Eve isn't the beginning of something new. It is just a moment when something that has been building quietly for a long time finally breaks.
Want to hear more stories like this? Hit follow. The night isn't over yet.